Good morning. Yes. Happy for real Wednesday. Yes.
Not Wacky Wednesday.
No. I think we're live. Can you see my face? Is that a working thing? I'm alone again. Not by choice. Jason abandoned me. Only for today, not like forever. That'd be weird. I love that that my shirt at the moment, all you see is I can't. It's kind of great.
Can't do this.
Yeah, I can't. That's great. He says, yes, but I can't see Jason. He's here. He's here.
I'm here.
He's in camo.
Sure
He's in camo. He wore his camo shirt today. He wore his world map shirt. He blends in with the background. So we've had a little, I don't know what you call this, unexpected work. So Jason had to leave extra early this morning, and you got me. So, yeah. But we're going to continue on the conversation here in just a little bit about our working geniuses. Did anybody that's here yet, did anybody take the test, or have you been like following along with us? It's Wednesday now, although yesterday was kind of like day one for us in terms of stream because we had technical difficulties on Monday. But yeah, like write in the comments kind of if you're following in, if you're tracking with us in the working, in the teamwork and say something, Jason. I'm talking a lot.
You're not talking a lot. No, I will say, how many of y'all are enjoying this conversation? Like, I would like to hear on the comments.
Yeah.
Maybe some things that people are, like, some takeaways or some things that maybe they've never considered. I know like, even my mom came over the other day, and she was like, you know, I've never heard of this, the working genius, and it was very intriguing. I think everyone's intrigued to know about how to work with people better. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like personality types. I think that's an intriguing topic all the way around.
I agree. It is a very intriguing topic because it's it could be a point of contingency. It's working with people, finding your rhythms. I know for us working as a married couple, that took some adjustment. Not everybody says that they can do that. So
That's God's first business right there.
Right.
Man and woman.
This is just part of the many ways that we work well together.
Yeah, but you know what? On that, I didn't even mean to, but as soon as I said that, it made me think about a little bit of the direction we wanted to go. Because to that example, I think the biggest things that the biggest thing that hinders a marriage is this idea of competition.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when couples compete, the family loses.
Yeah, I agree.
And the reason I say that is because I think especially in the household, but just teams in general, competition is not. I mean, yes, there is a level of making each other better, but what I'm really talking about is when you get to a place where what you are doing somehow causes you to feel either superior to your spouse, or what your spouse does makes you feel inferior to them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that's a level of competition that's unhealthy, because at the end of the day, a man and a woman are supposed to complete each other.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think about that?
No, I agree 100%. The second you start, whether it be, honestly, I think a lot of times that those issues, everything you're talking about, the root issue is insecurities, and the second you start bleeding through, in your marriage, those insecurities, it becomes detrimental, because it allows this competition almost, but I really do feel like the root of it is in more way, more often than not, is insecurity. And that's a horrible thing, because I feel like that should be something that you could be open with your spouse about, things that you fall short on or whatever. And then also, also just kind of, I don't know, not being proud of the other person. When you're competitive, you don't cheer that other person on, and you're missing out so much on just an incredible marriage if you can't cheer the other person on. You know what I mean? Because it's like, if you don't have a marriage where each person is that supportive of the other, I'm just telling you, I mean, it's an incredible thing to have your life partner be there for you in that kind of support, and also honest with you, but in the best loving way. You can't have those things if it's a competition. Marriage should not be it shouldn't be a battle, and it shouldn't be a weird game.
I Martinez here, but I agree. I agree 1,000%. It shouldn't be a competition. But I got a question for you guys. Like, in light of where people come from, like they might have been, like, before married, they were like a brother or sister in a household where someone might have been competing for the love and attention of their mom or dad, or or they come from a workforce where you're competing against the other to get a better salary or better benefits, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, and then you come into a marriage where somebody, might seemingly, you have that same mindset that you bring into a marriage. So, like, how do you go about not competing with each other? If that's the goal that you're shooting for, and I think it's the right goal,
Yeah.
100%. But it's kind of like when you come from an environment potentially that is kind of like the cup's running over with competition,
Mm-hmm.
then how do you all of a sudden back up and say, well, I'm not competing with my husband, I'm not competing with my wife.
Yeah. I think, Martinez, you answered your own question in the way that you brought up the question, which is like you recognized what you brought in based on your past. Does that make sense? Because I think that's key. It's like
Sure.
to recognize why you feel this way, which would be, I had a competitive, family, I had a competitive work life, and now here I am bringing this in. I think that right there is the number, because you're going to mess up. You're going to have those, if that's something you struggle with, you're going to have those issues, but recognizing kind of the backstory behind those issues helps you work out and notice when that's happening, I think. There are things, Jason and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago. I told him, what I recognized that I struggled with, 10 years ago, 12 years ago in our marriage. And he was like, I had no idea that, like that was something you battled with. But now that you say that, I know a lot of our arguments, and I said, I recognize why I was struggling with that and why I ended up being, demeaning, or why I ended up being, whatever that may be. But it wasn't until I recognized, why I'm that way that I was actually able to even notice I was doing it. So yeah, that's one of those many things too, that takes work, and the kind of work is that takes mess ups, arguments, work on it, mess ups, arguments, work on it. That's the kind of work that it takes until finally all of a sudden you realize you're arguing less and less because you're doing those things less and less.
Well, I'll say this too.
Right.
Something like for me, I think that, when I look at things I think there's a book I read a while back ago that talked about it, but think about this: when you are making that type of commitment. By the way, I guess Wednesdays are set aside for wedded couples. Seems like we always start talking about marriage on Wednesday.
I know, right? I got Kiana on here. She said when it comes to marriage, you have to be each other's cheerleader. Exactly. Anyways, continue, Jason.
Yes. Well, I was just going to say, there's also an element of learned trust.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I can legitimately say, I'm going to talk to Brittany about anything and everything, and I'm going to hold what she has to say. We are each other's vault. We are each other, and by saying that, I'm saying that, and I'm saying there's a speed. The speed of relationship and happiness and all that is determined and throttled by trust. How much you can trust somebody is how fast you can work with them. Translate that to a team, right?
Yeah.
You might have a really good idea, but maybe people on your team, you don't trust that they'll do the right thing with that information, or worse, they'll steal a good idea. They'll take credit for, you see what I'm saying? All of a sudden now, I don't have any trust. So that means I'm going to drag my feet, or I'm going to create scenarios that set me up versus you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think marriages do that unconsciously too. Back to a biblical idea, that's why we're called to leave our mother and father and become one. Well, what does that mean? Leave all of those things behind to now become a new individualized family that has their own unique values. Yes, we take things that have made us who we are, but maybe it's important to consider those things that we wish to abandon to become even better. I don't know. That's just some ideas that conversation sparked for me thinking.
Yeah, I know
I think you're. Oh, sorry about that.
Oh no, you're fine. You're good. Keep going.
We're going. We're jumping. We're excited.
Everybody's sprinting out of the blocks there.
Yeah.
The race.
The beauty of the Zoom delay. Yeah.
No, but I would, when you said, working trust or develop a level of trust, and I think, in answering my own question, that I posed, I was thinking like, you know, unique to marriage, the theme of marriage is this thing called vulnerability.
Oh,
That you should be okay. Vulnerability should be safe in the confines of marriage. You're pulling back all the cloak of ego or pride or whatever it is, and you're like, hey, I got a problem here. I got whatever it is.
Yeah.
And from that vulnerability springboard trust, because you kind of like you like you said, you have a vault of trust there, or secrets that just stays between the both of you all.
Yeah.
And so like if you can't be vulnerable and be safe, then like I think competition is the only next step. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Once you have that callus built as a result of your trust being broken, or your vulnerability being exposed or used against you, it's kind of like, ooh, it's kind of hard to kind of break out of that cell, that jail cell of pain and hurt,
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I was going to say, if you're in a marriage or a team, but, more often than in marriage for me, what I'm getting ready to say is not my marriage. But if you have a person in your life that when you share, or maybe you're this person, if somebody shares something vulnerable with you, and then in an argument, in the heat of the moment, you bring that up in a jab kind of way,
no.
That is so toxic. That is so toxic to your relationship. It's life choking. Life choking. And that goes back to the trust and the safe place for vulnerability, right? I'm not going to tell you things that make me vulnerable if it's going to be used against me, And so that's something I think that's so important in your marriage, and even in a team too. There are things you need to be vulnerable with your leader, and with your team to a certain extent about some things. It's okay, I think, to recognize your weaknesses and to express those, and but you have to be able to do that in an environment that's safe, that you don't feel like that's going to come back to bite me. That's not okay. Some people have been raised, don't tell, and I to a certain extent, don't tell your best friend what you'd want your worst enemy to know. And to a certain extent, yes, absolutely guard yourself. But we're talking about a marriage here. If you can't be vulnerable, if you can't be open, and I just think that creates walls that are unnecessary, and it keeps you from the potential of an incredible life-giving relationship. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree. And you know what, Brittany, even to your point, like throwing this back in teams, sometimes you've got to be, like you just said, you got to be vulnerable with your leadership, to be honest, because how many times have we heard either stories about this happening, or even personally with us, like working with different aspects of ministry? You've got a teammate that's absolutely miserable because they are unclear on what to do, and they know that they're not pulling it off. But the truth is, they never really understood what to do, and so you've got this teammate that's miserable, acting out against you because they have pinned up frustration against you.
Yeah.
And the team is suffering, and it's like, well, what? No, you've got to talk. Hey, are you okay? What's going on? Well, I'm worried because what you asked me to do, I can't do. And when you start talking, you find out, well, we never talked about you doing that. I apologize. We did. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's people act crazy when they don't feel like they can bring stuff to you.
Yeah,
if
it's
there's
true.
not that trust of confidants.
Yeah, and crazy could be it's relative, right? I mean, they can act out, or they could become a recluse and become like non-responsive. That is, they quit showing up. They don't contribute. It's like that. So going going crazy is, I think it could be relative. But like when people, I agree 1,000%. When people don't feel like they can expose their vulnerabilities or share, and again, not, you can't share it with everybody, but tell me this, guys. Right. What do you think, like, as it relates to a team, wouldn't you say, like, creating an environment of safety, or this is a safe place, like, it's okay to fail, it's okay to hit your head on a rock and not look like a pro at everything you do, or be a great dad, or great, is it important to kind of like create that environment of, this is a safe place to fail?
Absolutely. I think, yeah,
like what would be a better attribute or better, stronger, principle in a team environment that would kind of like usurp over a safe place, creating a safe place for your team. Like, I was just thinking that probably needs to be like a priority thing that you create as participants,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also think that everything rises and falls on leadership. If you are the leader of that said team, you have to create that environment of safety, that environment of it's okay to fail. It's support. You know what I'm saying? Like you create, you help create the culture in your team because you are the leader. And I tell you this, if you're a leader of a team, if you are not allowing a leader over you in some other aspect of your life, you're not going to be able to lead properly to your team, in your marriage, in your relationship. So it's accountability for you, and then creating an atmosphere in your team where these people can thrive. You're there to make sure these people can thrive and that they can do their best jobs and that they can feel accomplished. And ultimately the goal that you are setting as a team is reached. But if you reach your goal by, just beating your team down till they do it, that's just not okay, And so yeah. I think that it's that leader that sets that atmosphere of, man, I can be open. I can have that, And then also, as anybody else that's on the team, I think you need to be conscious of your feelings, of your emotions, that you don't need to let them kind of get the best of you. I think if every person walked into a team and thought more about what other people's feelings meant to them versus their own, you'd probably avoid a lot of drama. Because if you're constantly thinking in terms of, I don't want to say something that would offend the next person, all of y'all are going to work out better. You know what I'm saying? Because then everybody's feelings are being thought of, So how you word things and stuff are important, but just kind of not being so ultra sensitive, but at the same time being aware of your team's sensitivity, the next person. I don't want to say something that's going to be offensive or whatever. Those kinds of thoughts I think are important. I think women tend to think of that a little bit more. We tend to lean more on the feelings side of things. On the positive, we tend to be, we can be a very awesome force for good in terms of building people up and making them feel good. But on the negative, we can be overly sensitive. We can have our own little mouths where, we end up offending somebody. So understanding too the gender role that goes into play. Am I making sense, guys?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And on the male side, I mean, to your point, men can be more abrasive or over, just like a bull in a china shop when it comes to, emotions and overlooking how people feel. So
Yeah.
like obviously the two together make for great synergies on a team when they're blended right. But like I there's so many times. I mean, for a guy, I've been a guy all my life, and I talk to guys like talk to guys, and then to get married, I'm like, I learned real quick. I can't say things like I say to the boys on the court. You know, I mean, it's just it's just
that's a term of endearment.
I mean, like you just got to be like you. I mean, my goodness, like, woof, jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, just little things like hey, eating great dinner. You gotta even watch. I mean, even if it's great, you gotta watch even what you say. Like, hey, what'd be nice with this? Some like onions or something. Oh, so you're criticizing my dinner? Or no, I'm criticizing your dinner. It was great dinner. I'm just saying to be cool. I'm just like future reference.
You gotta get Robbie on the show one day.
Yeah.
I want to hear the other side of these conversations.
That's great. I love
I'm
it.
not saying. Now, first of all, I'm not saying that's us.
Oh yeah, I understand. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying, what if, that kind of thing, like it's out there, but I'm like, scratch the onion. I was just kidding. It was a joke.
Yeah.
But it's like, right. I mean, you guys, on the most part, you just don't have a good barometer of how people feel sometimes,
Yeah.
So I think there's roles to play, like you said, Brittany.
But playing to each other's strengths, I think, are important too, even in a team and in a marriage, because I think being aware that sometimes our gender can be a two-edged sword, right? So a man is going to come across a little bit more harsh at times. We're going to deal with those things. Women can be a little bit overly sensitive and can be a little on the nagging side. I can say that I'm a woman. So you've got those issues, but also understand that there are strengths too, like there are times that maybe I wouldn't say things a certain way because I'm a woman, but what Jason is saying as the man needs to be said, and there are certain things that the woman is saying that the man can't necessarily say the way that the woman is saying, understanding that there are some downfalls to our gender roles, but there's far more upsides, and you're necessary in who you are and who God created you to be on that team, in that marriage. You play a unique role. For example, I was in the kitchen the other day while Jason was kind of pacing on a phone call with a car salesman. And I just started stress cleaning because I just felt like the way he sounded was just a little on the harsh side. I was like, oh my God, you're kind of being harsh. To me, that's harsh. But at the same time, I kind of later, there was a little pushback from the said car salesman. And I realized very quickly, Jason knew the game that needed to be played, and he put on the persona that needed to be put on, and it needed that, where I would have been more gentle. I might have been backed in a corner. You know what I mean? He went ahead and just how you talk to certain people is a necessary thing. So he just looked at me, he's like, case in point, I needed to be that way. Don't shut me down.
Hey, on that note, here's one thing that, number one, we kind of actually went a different direction today. Really, the power of communication on a team, which I think is probably one of the most important things. Yeah. But to your point, Brittany, there are times where, again, like our differences, they are so important. Mm-hmm. It's not even funny because, again, there are ways in which we communicate that can be conflictive, mm-hmm. but there are these special moments where how each gender says a certain thing is so vitally necessary, and to trusting when that's the appropriate time. For mm-hmm. instance, even with the girls, there's times where they've got to have mama nurturing, loving, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
there's sometimes you're gonna have to let me say what I've got to say because I'm directing through discipline.
yeah, yeah.
Not that you don't discipline, but there is just something about a dad that,
That's the God's honest truth. What takes me 3 times to say takes Dad 1. And I'm not really, it's not even like, listen, I'm not loose with it. You know what I'm saying? But still, it's like they just know what Dad says. I'm not going to push those buttons, Yeah. A little envious of that.
it's all right. It's all right. There's also levels of, let's go to mom, like it's a give and take. That's why I think it's so vital. Like,
I will say to
be good teammates.
That you do, and to the competition thing too. Don't make your kids a part of your competition. So like I love the relationship that my girls have with my husband. I love the relationship that they have with their dad. I just think it's beautiful. And it's for him. He's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes so that, you can, mom can be there with you. Mom can, you have that relationship with your mom. So don't ever look at, boy, my kids love dad more than me, or boy, my kids, I think that can be another toxic behavior that can really destroy a team, in a marriage, and also in a team, kind of how certain people perceive your team. One person at the table may be getting a lot of credit. Don't make that a competition. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know for me, it's like if I'm the kind of person, if I'm on a team and somebody's complimenting me about something that our team did, I'm gonna receive that compliment. Thank you so much, but I'm gonna be honest with you. It would have never happened without this team, and I'm going to bring that along. But even if I was on a team where I wasn't the person being complimented and the person that was being complimented didn't kind of bring everybody in on the conversation, I'm not going to let my feelings get hurt over something like that. I feel like that, not to diminish your feelings, but let's be honest, it can be a little petty, so just kind of keep your feelings in check in that way. Check them, keep them checked, even though they may feel real, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are valid or need to be validated. Some of those things I feel like kind of land in the petty atmosphere, which can sound harsh. I'll leave that one up to the men, but I'm being kind about it. But yeah, we've got like our comments are on fire, guys. Mark Henderson, huge. When I had my church, that was our tagline, a safe house. So he was talking about just kind of it being a safe place. Absolutely. Your church should be a safe place like that. Create space. Let's see here. I'm losing all my accountability umbrella. TJ said it's reversed with boys, Britt. I think he's talking about how Anna and Adley are with their daddy. He said it's reversed with the boys and their mama. That's very true. Mama's boys. Danielle, hello. She's on our stream today. So, guys, we are 3 minutes overtime. Like, this has been an exciting topic, I can tell, because usually, when we're like on fire with a topic, we forget about the clock. So it's been a great conversation. I'm glad everybody's tracking with us. And yeah, I think this was necessary. Maybe we veered a little bit more into marriage today, but honestly, that is the most important team in your life. Is your marriage. And I think that it's never too early to work on your marriage, and it's never too late to work on your marriage. You don't have to have a spouse to work on your marriage, because I think working on your marriage can look like working on yourself. I believe with all of my heart that 2 halves don't make a whole. I think 2 whole people make a complete marriage. So, it's never too late to work on yourself or too early. And that inevitably will help your marriage wherever that may lie in your future.
Amen to that. That's awesome. 2 halves don't make a whole, but 2 holes make a whole. I love it.
Yeah, it's true.
2 holes make a whole lot of love.
Right? That's great. That's a lot of holes. But yes, anyways. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for joining in with us. I guess we'll go ahead and complete the stream and get things rolling, but be back here bright and early tomorrow. That would be 8 a.m. Nashville time. So if you're in the not Nashville, what is that? I always get confused. Central time?
Yes.
Yes, Central time. Absolutely. I love each and every one of you guys and love these conversations. Awesome topics. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.